welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Aaron Hepler. Today we're going to be talking to Phil Mellinger. Mostly this episode is going to be covering topics about becoming a new hunter, what it's like to go on your first out-of-state hunts, what it's like to hunt in-state, the things that you might need to get rolling, and this one's full of a lot of funny stories. That's one thing this podcast is really going to focus on, is making sure we don't forget to tell the story and the reason why we do it. So I hope you enjoy. This is In Camp Podcast. Sweet. Yeah, so you got to do some scouting yesterday?
Yeah. I just had planned to be out like a couple of times the last week, and it just didn't happen. I was like sick, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't make it happen with scheduling and whatever. So I was pretty set on just getting out yesterday to just look around and explore this one area that I was trying to get to, that I hadn't even really been to, other than like walk through.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't even show up on Onyx yet, this like cut. So I was like, when I was walking through it, I was like, oh man, this is all flat here. So I hung one camera and plan to go back and do some more. It's still snowy up there.
How long did you get to hike?
Let's see. I was probably out at least 3 hours.
Nice.
I think I got there at like 10:30 or 11, and I didn't leave until like a little after 2.
Yeah, and that's pretty. What? It's like an hour drive for you there.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. It's like,
It's a sweet place to hunt, though.
oh, dude, it's so good. Tons of tracks all over the place in the snow.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's just a different spot. I don't know. The sign seems better. It's easy to get to.
Well, the sign's going to shift from year to year, especially depending on like what mass crops were, like what oaks produced and which ones didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are just breaking the ice this morning. This is podcast number 3 in 2 days. I'm trying to knock out a bunch, so I got a bunch stockpiled here. So we have on the other end of the line Mr. Phil Mellinger.
Yes. How's it going?
I'm good, man. Phil, tell me like a little bit about yourself. We've known each other for, I don't know, 12 years, probably a long time.
Yeah.
Have you worked at the hospital now?
I've been there 15 years.
Yeah, same. So probably met you around the time I started there.
Yeah.
So we've known each other for a long time, but have really gotten to know each other in the last maybe 3 years. I've been hunting now for about 3 years, right?
Yeah, this would be this was the 3rd season.
All right. So I'm gonna let you make a little pitch into your, like, a brief background of yourself, but like mostly, relates to hunting in the outdoors.
Okay. So kind of getting into hunting was like a full struggle, because I didn't really have any family that had hunted. I didn't really have, anyone super close to me that was very outdoorsy or really into hunting. And I'd gotten into shooting in some shooting spaces before in my early 20s, but nothing really consistent other than going to a shooting range or anything like that. And really what just piqued my interest was, honestly, Steve Rinella was on the Rogan podcast one time. I listened to that, and then I think I read one of his books, and I was just kind of like, wow, this is awesome. And then right around the same time that I was getting into that content, you were posting a bunch of stuff on your socials about like hunting, being in the woods, and I was like, oh man, people around me like do this. And I was like, this is cool. So I kind of just followed it, and I kind of just realized, like, I kind of just want to do this, but I don't know how to like get into the space at all. And so, not really having any know-how or any like real person to lean on, I was just kind of like watching, Meat Eater on Netflix, and I'm like watching, just whatever kind of content would show up on social media. And I was like, man, this is awesome. I'd like to do this. I don't know how. So then I think I hit you up one time and I was like, how do you hunt? Like, how do you just do this? And we went scouting that one day a little after, and like he kind of introduced me to like public game lands, which I didn't even know was a thing. Like I knew there was like national parks and kind of thing, but I didn't have any understanding for how like game lands worked
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. And so like when you start understanding like those little pieces, then you're slowly able to build and build a little bit more of this understanding for what it means to actually go hunt.
Yeah.
And fortunately, that scouting session was like, well, like 9 months before the regular deer hunting season.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of learning stuff and, just a lot of consuming of information and a lot of questions to be asked and everything. And yeah.
I was actually talking about this with Rich last night when we recorded a podcast last night, and I said how different it was for us because he got into it. I mean, he was like a little kid wanting to fish all the time, and he was a little kid learning to like fish and stuff. But you learn all that stuff like traditionally you learn everything from growing up with your parents and
Hmm.
like as far as like regulations go and learning to read deer sign and where they live and how they act like that. I knew all that stuff before I could even hunt.
Hmm.
And to learn all that, like it's almost like by osmosis, right? Like my dad doesn't teach me out,
Right.
come bring me outdoors to teach me like how to track a deer today. Like
Right.
I remember as a kid, like it'd be like, oh, this is a deer track, and the deer's probably going this way, and it was just in passing. Okay, now we're going to look for some bass. You know what I mean? Like they weren't even really connected, but it was any opportunity you had to have the exposure to it, and all these people. So any exposure was just kind of like in passing, but for people that are just getting into this, it's a lot of stuff to learn. And I actually
Oh
I
yeah.
told a story about you how it's like the first couple times I took you out scouting, you'd be like, "Oh, look at this scrape." And I'd be like, "No, Phil, that's a rub." Well, what's the one on the ground then? Oh, that's a scrape. What's the difference? Like I remember it being like,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like, okay, like obviously you've learned all that stuff now, but it was a lot of like, oh, like we're going from bottom knowledge to top, but then you don't really think about that because you caught on to this pretty quick. So I feel like it was you take suggestions well. So it's like, all right, well, if I want to know Phil is serious, I tell you to take the hunter safety course, and that's the first thing you do. Then I know, like, hey, because it's just a
Right.
small investment of time, right?
Right.
Like if you're not willing to invest the whatever, if you go to a course, it's like 2 days long. If you take it online, it takes like 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever. It's a small investment of time for a lifetime hobby that you could really enjoy
Right.
and share with other people and your son at some point in time. So I think for people that are just starting to get into it, like that stuff's important. And for people that are going to be mentors, like if you want to know the person's going to be serious about it, like they need to be able to invest time. And I mean, some questions in the beginning, like, yeah, there is such a thing as a dumb question. Like, it, if your first question is like, I always say like, oh, what kind of gun do I need or what kind of scope do I need? Like that's not here yet, man. Like you need a weapon, but you need to learn some other things too. So
Yeah. There is definitely like a litmus test to, you know, going out with a buddy and like figuring out if they're serious.
yeah,
Um, and I kind of think like for me, like I kind of knew that like somebody like you would be like, okay, is this guy really real? Is he actually like interested in it? Like whatever. And for me, it was just like I knew I wanted to get into it, and my personality is the type where it's like when I find a hobby, I just dive into it.
yeah,
Um, and never getting into hunting, there was so much that I didn't know.
hmm
But there was so much content where I was able to just immerse myself in just all this stuff. Like, dude, I watched every single episode of Meat Eater and multiple of them twice.
Yeah, I still watch them
Like,
twice.
just picking up stuff here and there. And it went from everything from like how are they looking at like a specific species? How are they looking at a mountain? How are they looking at like a trail they go up? What kind of gear do they have on when they're doing this? And it was just like everything. And so everything was new to me outside of firearms.
Yeah.
And so getting into archery was just like this whole other thing where I was like, oh my God, what are we doing here? And so then I just had to put in the hours to like understand it. And then, interestingly enough, that archery mindset is similar to what led me into jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, now I do both of those like all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things like, because I started to see like improvement, it became addicting. And I was like, oh, I can do this now. I couldn't do this before. And then you just, you know, keep going, you keep grinding, and you have this like delayed gratification of like slowly building yourself into something that you want. And it's just freaking addicting and fun.
Yeah. I remember you starting. I remember going on that first scouting trip with you 3 or 4 springs ago now. And I guess it was 4 spring. This would be the,
Yeah, it was like, yeah,
like 4 years ago. I took you to one of my best hunting spots. And I think we were with Jared, weren't we?
yeah.
Yeah. So we all went out there looking for sheds and, scouting the area. And really the focus of the day was like, let's teach Phil about scraped shrubs and trails, and like what it means to be out here looking for a deer and how you can even find a deer. Because we don't really hunt the same areas. Like we don't, you're like 45 minutes from me. And you're about an hour from where you hunt. Like I said, we don't hunt the same state game lands, but you have some stuff close to your house too. So that was stuff you were going to kind of pick apart on your own. And I remember your enthusiasm with it was pretty cool because like I said, I've had a bunch of people be like, hey, can you teach me how to hunt? And they kind of want you to spoon feed everything. So,
Yeah,
which is fine for a period of time. Like I obviously don't expect you to you still aren't really going to understand deer sign that well from reading a magazine or reading articles
right.
online until you really get out there and just start looking around.
Hmm.
So I remember you were pretty enthusiastic about it, and I think we hiked like 8 to 10 miles that day, and you were like jamming. You were like, "Oh, this is great."
Yeah,
And I remember telling you like, if you really want to hunt, if you're really serious about it, you should consider archery hunting. And you're like, well, I was thinking about rifle. I'm like, you're gonna have more fun archery hunting because there's gonna be less people. It's like working night shift at the hospital versus working day shift
right,
when there's 1.5 million people there to tell you what to do all day.
right.
You actually have time to like settle in and learn. So I think for the new hunter that's coming into this, from your beginning, what do you think was part of the most important thing? Like maybe, like I said, maybe a safety class, like a hunter's, obviously hunter safety courses are mandatory if you're going to hunt in most states. I think in every state really. But learning about the animals. What do you think? What do you think were some important starting points for you?
So one, like your your personality has to be something that's like very independent.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, learning, a lot of it just came from my own independent learning,
Yeah.
my own like drive to actually get it started. So part of it, I just had that,
Right.
that ability to self-teach and the desire to self-learn. That was huge. And then this like ability to just be okay with the fact that I was going to suck at something because I was new.
Yeah.
And it was like, this isn't an inhibitive thing because I'm new. Like, you just suck because you don't know.
Right.
It's not, there's nothing wrong with you. You just got to learn. So, like you said, like I didn't know the difference between a rub and a scrape. And it's because I never learned there was a difference between a rub and a scrape.
It's still one
You
of my
know, it's
favorite
like,
stories.
yeah, it's like, so, when I, started putting pieces together and you start separating the wheat from the chaff, you're like, what is important information here and what's, a bunch of bullshit in the industry, like, because there's so much, it's like,
Yeah.
how do I know what to pay attention to and da 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 da, and like, what's a gimmick and what's actually real. That was one of the toughest things, really, is like figuring out, like, okay, just because there's a sign here doesn't mean this is a good spot to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is just a trail.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does the sign mean? Where's it going? What time of year is this happening? Like, and just putting puzzle pieces together on like this greater picture of like what the hunting season is going to look like. And like, you go out there and you struggle and you suck and it's terrible and it rains all the time and you're like having to actually be in the woods in like these real conditions is like, it tests you a little bit because you're like, this is really uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think it rained. It rained like almost every day of your first season too.
Dude, yeah. So the first story I had is the first archery season I went out. I just went to one of the local spots near me in this little spot where I was probably like a couple 100 feet out from the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I was with my buddy, who had just got his bow too. We walk about 100 yards from the truck and he's like, "Oh man, I forgot my arrows." So he had forgotten to clip them on. So he goes back, gets them, walk back over. And it's like 5 a.m. We get to our first tree and I find the tree that I want to climb. And I throw my first stick around and I cinch it down, I push it down, and I look up, and right then, rain just hits me straight in the face. And I'm like, oh no. And I end up climbing up in the rain, in the dark, like the second time I've ever climbed a tree ever with my saddle
Yeah.
and my sticks. And it was like the most brutal thing. I ended up ripping my like super cheap bino harness. My phone fell on the ground. And when I got to the point where I was putting my platform in the tree to stepping on it, my stick that I was at the top like sunk like 6 inches and spun sideways, and I like clumsily fell into the tree, and I was just like, oh my god, what am I doing? It was such an awkward like panic moment, but I got up there and I tied everything and I'm like sweating and I'm like, okay, I made it. And it's still raining. Like I'm still just getting pelted with rain. And I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. And so I pull my bow off, I get it stuck on the tree on the side, and it's just still downpour. So I didn't even knock an arrow. I just had my bow sitting right there. And the next thing I know, this like doe walks from like my 1 o'clock to like my 3 o'clock. And I'm like, they just come out of anywhere? Like, what's going on? And so I quit grabbing my bow and I'm like trying to knock an arrow. And I'm like, I realized that I'm on the complete other side of the tree from the deer.
Yeah.
And so I was like trying to negotiate like how to get around it. And I was like, I was immediately like faced with this reality that I had no idea of how to handle any situation. And I was like, I guess you just got to go through this to like understand what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
And so the deer walks off. I don't shoot at it. I don't have my phone. It's laying on the ground like 20 feet below me. And I can see my buddy way off on the side, like in another tree. He had no idea there was a deer. And it was just like freaking hilarious. You know, like I think we got down around like noon or like 1 o'clock, just sopping wet, went and grabbed some food. And then we just shared our dumb little story at the diner about how miserable it was to hunt in the rain on the first day.
Yeah. That was I think I wasn't home that year. I think I was elk hunting. And I don't remember if I texted you while I was out there to see how it went, but I do remember that it rained because everybody all my buddies that were at home were like, "This was the worst first day ever," because it rained so bad, and it was kind of hot if I remember right.
It was oddly humid, and it seemed like there was just a ton of rain. So I don't think I went out for like a week after that.
Yeah,
I actually don't remember what I did,
I can't remember either.
but
But it's pretty cool to see how you grew from that first year to now. Even in your second year was, you know, I would say 75 to 80% better than your first year. And
yeah, and it was just building constantly.
your first year to now, uh, how do you think you've improved?
Um, the first year was like a combination of just like dumb luck and being overwhelmed. So the first year, I had a great attempt at a huge buck, and the only reason that I even was in position to shoot at it was because I just luckily happened upon this particular spot. And it just came trickling down from another hunter that I presume kicked it up and just came over and stopped in front of me.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest thing is like putting myself in position to have opportunities where they become more predictable.
Yeah.
And it's like, instead of just going out there and like luckily having something walk by you, it was like, okay, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to see something probably in the morning at this time, this spot going this way. And it was like just constantly refining how I would get into a place, how I would handle the terrain, the climate, whatever was going on. I'm still trying to piece together like best ways to get to places with wind and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, whether or not it's uphill in the morning or uphill in the evening, and then, temperature and how that's all falling. And so, like, that's where my mind's at right now while I'm scouting, is that I'm trying to figure out entrance ways to get to a spot. It's like, great, you found a spot, but, like, how do you get here
Yeah.
without kicking it up and blowing it up, at whether you're evening hunting or morning hunting? And so, like, that's where my mind's at right now when I'm scouting. Before it was like, find where deer, like, go, and I would just hunt a spot that had sign.
Yeah.
Now I'm using sign to tell me a little bit more of like how the deer are using the land. Is this like, are they just moving through here? Are they living here?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the biggest thing. So it it's kind of one of those things because you almost make it up as you go, and then you kind of get out there and feel it out and come up with an idea, and then sometimes I'll just hit you up like, here, how do I get to this spot if it was doing this?
Yeah.
Like, would you go this way? Would you go that way? And so like having somebody like you to bounce ideas off of is great. But it's like I got to do the work, and I got to go out there and like at least give it an effort. Like whether or not I fail or suck, it's still fine.
Yeah.
Because
It's all in the
anytime you get
experience and
into,
learning.
yes, and it's one of those things that because I'm new, like there's this massive learning curve. It's like I just have to go try, and it's like, well, if I screw it up, whatever. Then I'll just learn from it, and that's just all it is. It's just stacking lesson on lesson
Yeah.
to like actually build something.
You have such a good attitude towards it, and I think the attitude and the determination that you have to scout is pretty has led to, in my opinion, you haven't killed a deer yet, but in my opinion,
Dude, no.
you've had a lot of success, and this is why. I don't even think I saw a buck of the caliber that you've seen because you've showed me pictures of the buck. Like you learned how to use trail cameras right away. I told you should probably invest in a couple cameras. And I remember even in your first year, you were getting pictures of great bucks, and you learned to hunt those areas. And we started. I think that was something that's something that you can learn on something like an accelerated path. Like, okay, like you said
Mm.
earlier, just because there's sign there doesn't mean that you should hunt that sign. You need to find like the sign that's valuable. Because if it's just something, if it's just if it's just a deer, if it's just a deer stopping at Wawa for a sandwich versus going to a sit down meal, it's a different kind of story. So I think that was one thing that we helped you learn right away is like, hey, like make sure the sign that you're hunting is something where the deer are going to be often. And then
Mhm.
I think we did kind of touch on a lot of access. Like I remember the first year you were hunting kind of like a rounded ridge top on the game
Mhm.
lands that's close to you. And you were like, well, should I take the trail from up top and drop down, or should I go around the bottom and hike all the way up the hill? And we did. We talked about thermals and access and that kind of thing, or like if the deer's bedding here,
Mhm.
you should come from this area if the wind is blowing that way. Those kinds of things we taught the importance to you early. And I remember being a kid and just being like, whatever, and just walking in. I didn't have like this year. You saw some pretty big bucks this year, a couple of
Yeah,
times.
this year was.
Yeah, and it's not the first time. Like I remember, last year you had an opportunity at like a 9 pointer that you had some pictures of, and you shot under that, and
Mhm.
you had an opportunity up north the year before at a pretty
Mhm.
decent buck like early on, and I think that's really cool because honestly, man, I I didn't I didn't see a deer of the caliber you saw until I was like 18 or 20 years old.
Oh wow.
So,
Huh.
and I didn't kill. I don't remember when I killed. I guess I killed with a bow. I didn't kill one until I was like 30. Um, I was so it was like seven years ago. I killed a deer. I killed a
Hmm.
buck that was like 10 points. And you've been seeing deer like that often, and it's pretty cool because you're doing it on public land, because you've spent a lot of time scouting. And you're not really hunting an area that's completely unpressured. The pressure's lighter in archery season. I think it is. Well, obviously the pressure's lighter everywhere, even in heavily hunted areas. But I mean, I would say there's a moderate amount of pressure just in our area in general. So it's pretty cool that you're
Yeah,
having
there's.
that kind of experience already.
It's definitely been fun. It's been both exciting and frustrating because I feel like I'm seeing deer, yes, but it's almost like I I got less close,
Yeah,
but I've also been more disciplined.
yeah,
So like the first deer I hit in the rear hip and I couldn't recover.
hmm,
Um, Mostly because I pushed my arrow or my release right into my cheek,
yeah,
right when I shot, and it was like the story behind it is like real long and everything, but it was just one of those like I just punched my trigger and I was like, oh, okay. So I went around and played around with a bunch of different releases. I ended up getting a thumb release, which I like a lot better.
hmm,
Um, and then the next one um, was this freaking huge, widespread buck that came down from a hill. And he actually ended up going like within 10, 15 feet of my tree.
yeah,
And the shot was something that I had never even contemplated before, where it was like he was like literally under my tree, almost straight down to the
hmm,
point where I didn't even like understand how to like put a pin on it because I didn't know what the arrow would do.
hmm,
And it turns out I just shot right under it
yeah,
and just hit the ground right underneath his torso.
yeah.
And I couldn't believe I missed. I just didn't understand like the what gravity was going to do with the arrow at that point.
Yeah, and that's something you it's an easy thing to kind of overlook when you're teaching somebody how to hunt because it's um, when you're thinking about shot angles, you're actually thinking about hitting the other side of the deer. Like you're really actually aiming
Yes.
for the off side of the deer. So you should be aiming
Mhm.
higher to compensate for that. But that's not something like me as a teacher, I'm not really thinking, oh well, he's going to have a deer at 15 feet 2 weeks from now. So you should tell him, hey, aim for the opposite side. Don't aim for the side you know. So so you have to really think about where your exit hole is. and that's how you
Right.
aim for angle when it's in close like that. But that's kind of something, like I said, something that I just learned. I started shooting a bow when I was like 5 or 6 years old, and then
Mhm.
shooting from a deck when I was like 10. You know what I mean? Like you learning all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. And I mean, I remember going to get your first bow with you, and you never really shot
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bow. Not like that one. And
Yeah.
of course, uh, I think you fortunately had some cash saved up to I think
I
that first
had a
year you
lot.
spent quite a bit. You spent quite a bit of cash.
Oh my God, so much.
Uh,
I got the yeah, I got that the $1,800 Matthews hat.
yeah. So yeah, that was an expensive hat. Uh, for those of you who don't know Phil, he's like 20 feet tall, and he's got like a 400-inch draw length, and
Yeah,
he needs
exactly.
the biggest, best bow possible. They didn't even have to cut your arrows,
Yeah,
which is hilarious. What's your draw length? Like 32
it's
inches or
32
something
and a
like that?
half.
Yeah. So you got like
Yeah.
this massive, like you're basically shooting a bullet at these deer, um, from a slug gun.
When I
Um,
realized the devastation of my arrow, that was what took me from like being like kind of into archery to be like, oh, this is so cool.
yeah. I mean, you could shoot like a 550 arrow like it's like it's a 320 arrow.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty crazy. Um, so with your start in hunting, what things would you prioritize first? Like as far as like if you're going to tell somebody, okay, I can tell that you have time invested. We've done some scouting together. Now, what do you actually need to hunt? Should you start rifle hunting and bow hunting in the same season, since that's something that you did? Should you start with small animals? And then, if you're going to do that, what would you prioritize spending your money on first?
Oh man. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to build yourself up in a way that you're going to be more comfortable out there for as long as possible. Like
Hmm.
whether or not, you know, sitting in the woods, there's times where you're just going to sit there for hours and not see anything. So you can't get to a point where you just don't like that. So
Hmm.
you need to be comfortable. You have to have gear that fits. You have to have gear that works. And managing how all that functions to a point where you're comfortable is huge. I've retooled all my stuff a couple of times, and getting to the point where you can just go out there and it's like 17 degrees, and you're like, cool, it's 17 degrees today. It's not a big deal.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's good. Not fearing like cold and stuff is huge. Rain is another thing. Like if you can tolerate that, it's fine. Um, Getting into like whether it's archery or rifle or both. I would say that it's probably honestly whichever you naturally prefer.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't have I had this idea of rifle, but then when I started shooting my bow, I started realizing like how much cooler this actually was. Plus, I realized the seasons were longer. Um, and so for me, it was just like, well, I plan to hunt, so it's like let's just learn to do this. And
Hmm.
um, from being able to tolerate the elements to being able to like get up at 4 in the morning and drive wherever and climb a tree in the dark. It was just little steps of building myself up to be able to tolerate this new thing that I was doing. And there's a part of it where you're like, yeah, it's gonna suck, but do I want to hunt? Yeah. Then you just go and do it, and then you have a story to tell afterwards about how it was terrible or whatever thing. And
I think that's yeah.
the the
Keep
biggest
going.
thing for me was that um, I was just interested in doing a hobby that would yield stories. Like I just like
Yeah.
hearing stories of stuff. And so, like whenever you hear somebody tell a cool hunting story, you're always kind of like, "Oh man, that's great." Like whether he shot the thing or not, it's like,
Right.
you were hunting and you saw a bear or something, or you were hunting and you saw like this cool thing happen, or you saw a hunter take a crap in the woods. There's just
I've seen that.
stuff that
It's not great.
there's just stuff that's uncanny that happens, and like that's what that's kind of where I went into hunting desiring the most. And so like the fact that I haven't come out carrying a deer yet, like it sucks, but like it's no reason to give up or stop, because the reason that I'm hunting is so I have stories and it's just fun.
Yeah,
So
for sure. I think you make such a good point with the clothing. I'm not so I don't
hmm.
I you've made fun of me for being a fanboy because I have a mishmash, right? Like I have
Dude, I have everything.
uh yeah, and I never wear and I still have bibs from like Academy Sports with Realtree camo on them. You know what I mean? Like and I wear them consistently. And I think it's cuz I've learned how to like deal with the elements early when I was 12 years old, everything was hand-me-downs. Like it
hmm
was my dad's stuff from when he was 12 and my cousin's stuff from when he was 15, and like it's all like threadbare worn stuff, so I'm wearing like
hmm
400 layers, and I think that's something that you learn too when you're a kid, because when you're a kid you don't care as much
Right.
about that, or like dad says we're going hunting, so that's what I'm doing, and I guess I just have to deal with that. So you learn how to deal with the hardships easily. But I see that with like people that are new onset, and you're like, you know, 25, 30 years old, just want to get into hunting, and you go out there and you're like, this sucks. It's cold, like I'm freezing. So I might not place as much value on clothing as somebody that's new to hunting, because I see value in other things like purchasing a saddle,
hmm
and a mobile stand setup is
Right.
important to me, because I can, find a deer or hunt a deer easier out of a tree here in PA, or things like that. And I think that those priorities can shift, because if you're just learning, you can hunt on the ground. Like there's no
hmm
problem hunting. It's harder, with a bow in big timber. It's harder to hunt on the ground versus in a tree, but you can do it. And I think so. That's important. I think comfort is important, because it will burn you out. Like elements that suck. Early archery season's kind of nice. You can wear a t-shirt and
Yeah.
jeans. You know what I mean?
hmm
Like, but uh, beyond that, when it starts to suck, it's like, man, this is not that fun until you have something to make it tolerable or more fun in the long run. And like you
Right.
said, you get a good story out of it.
Yeah, and I think
And
we'll go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay.
No, go.
I think that as you're building your kind of hunting setup, like you're gonna incur a ton of cost, and stuff is just gonna cost money. And that's the second litmus test of like, okay, you got time, but do you have a little money? And it's like that's
Yeah.
the other thing that's gonna, determine whether or not you're gonna have a good time realistically. Because like you don't have to have premium gear, but premium gear is the difference between like a 5 hour sit or a 12 hour sit. Like my
Yeah.
first year, I was sitting in a tree from 6 to 6.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
Yeah. And that's
it's
a
a
long
long,
period
like
of
I'm not
time.
getting down. Like I was just in there 6 to 6 a couple of times.
Yeah.
And, um, as I've refined things over these last couple of years, is it's like I made a conscious effort to get all my stuff lighter, because it's
Hmm.
like that was the second thing. Like hanging out in the woods for a long time, yes, but also being able to get there and have energy after I just walked up some hill or went in a couple of
Yeah.
miles, because my gear is significantly lighter.
Yeah.
Um, so just refining stuff. I mean, I'm fortunate to have like enough income where I can play around with some stuff, which is great because I got into hunting as an adult. So,
Yeah.
not like the 12-year-old with the hand-me-downs like you have. Um,
Right.
Me just like prioritizing it and just like, all right, well, if I want, to get this new setup or these lighter climbing sticks, like I'll just do it,
Yeah.
which is hella fun. Um, so, it's just been fun to put the gear to use, see how it works, and then build on that and just continue to build the experiences out.
Yeah. I think there's probably ways to save a little bit of money or start, like if you don't have a robust budget, you could probably start out by picking one thing this year and picking something else next year. Like you would hunt
Yeah.
something small, you could get a 22, you could get a $250 22 air rifle and some orange clothing for, $15 at Walmart and go hunt squirrels that year and rabbits and groundhogs or something just to get your feet wet. And then you can, ask for some gift cards or something for Christmas and buy yourself a nice whatever. I think the other thing too is like asking questions about the gear you buy, because I remember your first year you were like, well, I said, well, you should really find you. Well, how? I said you should really find a way to get in a tree, and you're like, well, do I really need to? And I'm like, no, but it's going to be better. Like, and well, okay, so do I use a tree stand? And I said, no, you got to use a saddle. Do you have to use a saddle? No. But if you think you're going to be into archery and you think being mobile is what you're going to want to do, and you think you're going to carry a 25-pound tree stand on your back with all your gear, and it's not going to be a problem for the next 10 years, it's going to be a problem. Like you can get a premium lightweight tree stand setup, like where you're only carrying 10 pounds or whatever, and it might be a little bulky or whatever, but you want to invest time in researching that kind of stuff, because I remember being like, all right, well, you can get a cheap tree stand set up, but it's not going to be that fun, and next year you're going to buy a saddle anyway. So spend the extra $300 and get yourself into a saddle, and that's what you did. I think it was worth it.
Oh yeah.
So there's things like you just need to research things when you're talking about clothing. If you need to save money on clothing, research what the warmest materials is to wear, or whatever if you're hunting hot weather, what the lightweight kind of stuff is, and then compare them to whatever you're hunting with. I think a good thing is just like go to the Army and Navy, go to an Army surplus store
You could.
and buy yourself a bunch of wool stuff, or like tactical clothing. It doesn't need to be camouflage. It can be solids. You can get by with that stuff, and eventually, like when you upgrade, you can use some of that stuff as base layers.
Yeah.
It'll work. Army wool is a little bit on the itchy side. It's not merino. It's not fine merino wool that you can get in some premium hunting brands, or not like these awesome synthetic materials that you can use, but you can save a little bit of money that way, and you can find a way to be comfortable. But the important thing is comparing materials and learning where you can save money. And then, like I said, if you want to get a Chinzy rifle or something, that's great. But then you're going to want to upgrade, and you're going to end up spending
Right.
instead. So you buy a rifle for $400. You could have bought that $1,500 rifle, but now you're $2,000 in the hole because you bought another one first. You know what I mean?
And
So it's
yeah,
spend the money where it's important first, probably.
yes. And the other thing too, I would say, is all of the shops online, they all have sales. And I don't think there might be 5 articles that I've bought out of my entire closet full of stuff that was full price. Like,
Yeah.
I've bought
always
everything
wait
at
for that.
least 25 to 40% off. I'm talking Kuiu, Sitka, First Light, all of them have been on sale.
Yeah.
And, I just watch the sales. I hunt, I go, I need clothing for this temperature. So then when it's in the off season, it goes on sale, then I gobble it up. And then that's just how I've built. This past year I added rain gear, like premium rain gear, because I was like, I can't be having my hunts cut short because it decides to rain on the 2 days that I have off.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. So
I don't lie. I hate hunting in the rain, and it's probably because I've not, like, I have some nice like lightweight rain gear that I've used, like we use for elk hunting. But I remember, I'm gonna tell a story real quick because this one's kind of funny. It was like, it was towards the end of the archery season, and it was maybe 5 years ago. I think it was like November 10th or 14th, something like that. The last couple days, I think it was either the last day or the second to last day, something like that. And my one buddy was like, "We need to go into that spot where you killed this 10-pointer or whatever." And it was calling for like 10-mile-an-hour wind with 20-mile-an-hour gusts, which isn't wild wind,
Right.
but it was going to be sleeting and raining and snowing,
Ugh.
right? So I'm like, dude, I'm not hunting in that. Like, that's miserable. And it was supposed to be like 5 degrees or something ridiculous. And I'm like, that's going to be miserable. No, we got to do it, man. The buck's, we got to go. And I'm like, all right. So we went out, we hiked a mile and a half in, we sweat our butt off. It's raining when we get there, right? And
Perfect.
it didn't get down to 5. It was like, I don't know, 15 degrees. It was pretty cold. It was like 15, something like that. So it's raining, and we hike in a mile and a half, and it was all uphill. And so we climbed the tree. I'm like, man, now it's starting to sleet. So my straps are getting icy and like everything. And I was using a tree stand at the time, a 34-inch platform.
Oh.
It weighed 35 pounds.
Oh my
And I
God.
remember I climb up in this tree that's way too big now. I had killed a deer out of it before, but in the 2 years it grew it grew pretty big, so it was almost hard to get my arms around it. And I only went up 3 sticks because it's cold out. And I was wearing like, basically it's like Chinsey, it was like Walmart Chinsey windbreaker gear that
Oh
was
yeah.
like water resistant, right? And I got soaked. I mean, soaked. And then it was snowing, and then the wind started picking up, and I'm uber cold, right? We made it. We hunted. I think we got to the parking lot at 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and because that's after the dumb time change happens, so you got to get there
Right.
stupid early. And I got. I think we hunted until about noon. So I made it pretty long for the stuff that I had on, but I was more cold than I'd ever been. And I remember climbing down the tree and I only saw a doe. And I remember climbing down the tree and like grabbing a hold of the sticks, and my hands just, dude, I was so cold. And everything was like, I tried to break the tree stand off the tree because it froze to the tree.
Ah.
It took me 10 minutes to break the tree stand off the tree and
Oh
get all
my
my
God.
straps off. And my hands are just killing me. And I remember getting down and like having chest pain because my hands hurt so bad. And we met on the road. And I'm like, I am never hunting in that crap again, which
Oh.
is probably not true. I probably would do it again. I just, I would definitely have invested in some rain gear by the next
Oh
time I
my
do
God.
something like that. But it's fine if you're hunting in a little bit of warm rain and you got some light gear or whatever. But if you're gonna get serious about hunting in nasty elements like that, you got to have the appropriate stuff,
Mhm.
because even for like at that point in time, I'd been hunting for like 20, 22 years, something like that, and even at that stage
Right.
in time, that's miserable.
Right. Yeah, and if you're getting any kind of wind, oh, it just compounds everything. Because
Yeah.
like it's one thing if the rain is just falling straight down, but if it's windy and rainy and it's just coming at you sideways, like there's no staying dry. I mean,
No, not at all.
like, ugh.
Um, so what year you went? Did you go elk hunting your second year or your
Yeah,
first
yeah.
year?
So elk hunting was the
Second year.
second. Ah, was it the second? Yeah, yeah. So it was last year at this point. So it would have been my second license year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my question is do you think it's worth it for a new hunter to travel out of state to hunt right away? Like, I remember you having some frustrations and learning like, hey man, like I'm missing some good time at home. And I think you learned that because like, oh, well, I was gone. This is what was happening at home.
Um, let's see. So I think when I went out, it was either October or September, I forget. But it was elk muzzle loader season. So it was like
Hmm.
early season. Um, it honestly wasn't, I don't know if I necessarily missed anything. It cut my season short. I had to use all his PTO at one time and all
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, Here's the biggest thing. If you're going out to hunt out of state, one, you're not going to have any time to scout. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
have like a complete immersion in an area that you know nothing about. Doesn't matter what they tell you. Doesn't matter what you're looking at on Onyx. Like when you're actually out there looking at the trees, you don't know what's in there. You don't know the terrain. You're literally just like there for the ride. Which if that's what you want
Mm-hmm.
to do, great. And that's what I wanted to do. So it was a lot of fun. But then you just get whatever the woods gives you. Like
Right.
it's just, you don't know how you're going to sleep out there. You don't know if it's going to be 18 degrees at night. You don't know if you're, in for a heat wave. It's just an adventure. The thing is, I was down for that. I was like, give me all the chaos. Let's just go. So, um, the one thing that you're going to have to do is you have to make sure you're in shape. You have to make sure that your body can physically handle it. You can't be lollygagging around. You can't be half-assing your fitness. That is the one thing that you have to do. Fortunately, before I had done that, I had just started jujitsu, and my cardio is one of the best it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so climbing up hills, even though I wasn't like equilibrated to like Colorado altitude,
Mm-hmm.
I could do it. My body was like, okay, it's like once I equilibrated to it, then it was nothing. I didn't have really any issues. Um,
Yeah.
my buddy struggled a bunch with like carrying his pack in and stuff, and we had to like stop and unpack his pack and do some other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so fitness is a huge thing. Electrolyte management is huge. And that's just stuff that you learn. Like you start to figure out like, okay, water is really important, but if I carry all of it, like I'm wasting pack space carrying water. So how do we figure this out? So water purification was huge and stuff like that. Um, and depending on what you're eating and stuff is really tricky too. So like the toughest thing is like you just don't know what you don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
so going into it, you can go into it with all the enthusiasm you want. The mountain's still going to beat you down like your first time. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to go again because it's like I understand what happened the first time and like how things sucked and how things were great. And so it's like I can like mitigate a lot of that challenge. Um, just from understanding what you're going to be doing. But that's also probably why I was excited to be out there and doing it because it's like I have to learn. Like I'm never going to
Right.
learn any of this unless I don't throw myself into it. Um,
Right.
so I guess to answer your question with it, really like if it's really what you want to do and you're seeking the most immersive experience, like go ahead. But just be just be forewarned that there's going to be a time where you're totally miserable and out of your element and like it's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
um yeah.
I think it's probably it. You can look at it two ways. You can I I think what you said is really valuable. Like if you're really into it and you really want the immersive experience and you're okay with a lot of suck because
Hmm.
hunting out of state for the first time is generally a lot of suck. Um,
Yes.
but the other part to it is you could look at that as an aspiration, right?
Hmm.
Like take a couple years and learn. Like if you aren't learning on a super accelerated curve here, it might be worth it to hang around home and
Hmm.
hunt for a couple years because, like you said, the the one thing that I find to be the hardest about hunting out of state is vacation time,
Hmm.
right? If you're gonna go hunting elk, you're not going hunting for 4 days.
Right.
It
Right.
takes 4 days to drive there from here.
Right.
Drive there and home. So you're
Hmm.
talking about 4 days of vacation time in a car, and then 7 to 10 days of vacation time to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately for us, we work 12-hour shifts and have off 4 days a week. So we can probably take like 2 days on either end of a
Mm-hmm.
schedule and have off for 2 weeks.
Right.
But not a lot of people have that opportunity. So I think if you're going to take a long vacation like that and you're going to sacrifice time at home, like that's going to be learning that you're not going to get to do for next year
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have the same of availability as we do. Um, and there's not really a problem with that if you have gained a lot of experience, you know, tromping the woods at home versus right away going out to hunt, um, an elk or some kind of western game, or even to neighboring states. Like my first out of state hunt was Ohio, one state over,
Mm-hmm.
and it was hard.
Mm.
You know, we didn't find deer until like the fifth or sixth day of the hunt.
Mm.
I think we all saw like a doe or two before that, and like you said, learning to pack what food is right, and you know, we had a buddy that was with us that didn't download any of the offline maps,
Oh
and that
no.
was
uh,
so it was like and it was an area that was like basically completely void of any reception except for at the campground that we were at, but there
mm-hmm.
wasn't enough bars at this place for him to download any of this stuff. So he had to go find a town with a library, and it was like 45 minutes away from the campground
Oh
and
my
miss
God.
half a day of hunting. You know what I mean?
Right.
And those things cause problems. Like A, he could have gotten lost, and B, he did get lost and ended up sitting where I was going to sit because I told him like, "Hey, go in this way." And I remember walking up to the spot I was going to sit and seeing a light, and I'm like, "What the heck?" And we ended up figuring out it was Ronnie. Like,
uh,
but it's just those are the kinds of things that you're going to learn out of state, and you might have already figured those kinds of things out by doing a lot of footwork at home. I do think that hunting out of state early on, like you did, is definitely a worthwhile investment, especially the way you did it. You did a lot of anybody can do a lot of research, but you had like really good resources that lived in Colorado or
mm-hmm.
knew somebody that lived in Colorado. And like, hey, if you're going to do a first experience, this is a really good first experience
Right.
and that kind of thing. And I think those are important things is look for those things that might make the hunt a little bit easier.
Yeah.
When I did my first elk hunt, it was with a drop camp. So an outfitter brought us into a wall tent. It was all public land. They drop us off and say, hey, sometimes we see, there's some good success over here, and we've been glassing bulls for a guided group, and we've been seeing bulls over this way, and that kind of thing. So, and you end up spending a little bit of money, but it's not a fully guided hunt, and
Mm-hmm.
so you get some ease, but you also get that DIY adventure kind of thing or whatever that you're looking for. And hunting in elevation like that is way different than deer hunting. Like you said, the fitness is so important because
It's crazy. And then like you don't even
yeah,
realize how you're gonna feel when you get out there.
yeah, because the altitude is a big deal. Like I don't I don't think it gets talked about enough. Like I think it gets talked about, but for Eastern hunters going to Western states, everybody talks about like, oh, fitness is important, and like they might talk about this is how much nutrition you should have, and how many calories you should be eating, and this is how much water you should drink. But I don't think there's enough. Like there is definitely like articles on and information on altitude sickness and stuff. And I'm not saying you're going to get altitude sick, but
Mm-hmm.
you will if you are from the east and you go west and your VO2 max is not like Michael Phelps, like you are going to have problems with altitude, and it is a very strange feeling. And if you have that fitness, it only lasts a couple days, or if you learn the things that make it better, like getting a script for Diamox or taking ibuprofen when you start developing symptoms of that and of altitude sickness. But it's super important because man, it is not fun to feel like you can't breathe when you're at 11,000 feet.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Now, my camp wasn't, I don't think, as high as yours. I think mine maxed out at
Yeah,
like 9,300.
yeah.
Um, So, I mean, it would definitely have been scalable had I gone up farther on the mountain because we were kind of on like the middle of the
Yeah.
mountain face.
I
Um,
remember when I got below 10, it wasn't nearly as bad. It was still not great, but 7 was where I started to notice it.
yeah, and like the way that mine worked is we actually got there to Colorado to my friend's uncle's place and spent a full 24 hours in Colorado before hitting the trailhead and going up. So
Hmm.
we kind of had like a little bit of get used to it time before we
Hmm.
were actually boots on the ground and in the mountains.
Yeah.
So I think that helped.
Super valuable.
Um, and like we didn't rush anything.
Hmm.
The biggest thing that we didn't understand was like packing in from the truck, like how much food to take, what are we gonna want to eat on like day three? Like you can make yourself eat whatever on day one and day two, but
Hmm.
like day three, what is your body screaming at you? Like that was the biggest thing. And
Yeah.
then let's see. And then the biggest thing was like how much gear do you take? Like you have this idea of like, oh well, we could have all these different elements and you know, wasting pack space with like gear that you might wear like once, or like how much of this do you have to
Right.
like change every day? Like just wear the same shirt. What are you
Right.
doing?
Yeah.
You don't need 8 pairs of
Wear the same
socks.
underwear for 4 days.
Yeah, exactly. Like what are you doing? Like,
It doesn't matter.
yeah, it's like, you figure out what a necessity is and what isn't, which is part of the cool part. Um, After a while, I realized like I only need 2 pairs of pants. I need like a heavy pair for when it's cold, and I need a lighter pair for when it's hot, and that's it. Like,
Hmm.
what are we doing?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and then, you know, the biggest thing that I learned is just that mental strength too. Like, because there's so much stuff that's working against you, like you're hungry,
Hmm.
you're tired, you're cold, you're wet, you're hearing elk over in the bush. And it's like,
Yeah.
are you actually able to get over that hill? Or are you just going to like sit here and, do whatever? And it's like, there's a couple ways to play it, but like you miss an opportunity if you don't put yourself in the best possible position to go and do it. So you might be
Hmm.
comfortable here and it might be easy to sit here, but maybe realistically you need to be on the other side of the little hill over there.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, I just kind of liked the challenge because I was like, how much of this is me against my body against the mountain?
Yeah.
And it was just, it was just fun to experience. I mean, I can't wait to go
Yeah.
again and just like, do it all over again and actually like put more of what I've learned into it.
Yep.
Um, because I feel like I'm like head and shoulders more experienced with hunting now than I was then.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that like, just that experience would be, just so much better just given I've already done some of it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
So my last thing for you, buddy, is I've been asking people, and I don't know if this question will stick, but I think it will for now. What kind of impact has hunting had on your life? Do you think it's a hobby that's here to stay, or is it you gonna pass it on? What are you gonna do with it?
I mean, I'm already in the middle of passing it on to my son.
Yeah.
I've got him sitting in our little tree stand that we have in some local areas here. Um, I had him out for rifle season in the bitter freaking cold for the first opening day this past
Hmm.
season. Um, and I've been giving him like a little bit more than he can handle, like each time just to build him up a little bit.
Yeah.
And, he's 10. He complains about everything. Daddy, I'm tired. I'm cold. I'm this. I'm like, well, you still had fun though, so I don't want to hear any of it.
Yeah.
So one, yeah, I'm definitely passing it on. Two, um, when I got into hunting, it it was kind of like this just became my lifestyle. And
Hmm.
so the combination of like jujitsu and bow hunting and scouting they're all kind of this like trifecta where like um, my lifestyle is like being fit and active. And so
Yeah.
like I'm constantly in shape because I have to be able to do
Mm-hmm.
my hobbies. And so like
Mm-hmm.
each one kind of holds me accountable. I get a mental
Yeah.
strength from jujitsu. I get this physical fitness from jujitsu, and
Mm-hmm.
I can apply that into hunting and
Mm-hmm.
scouting, which gives me like the mental clarity in those areas. And then
Yeah.
it's like as I build through the year, it's like I'm constantly like leveling up either my fitness, my mental acuity, or, just the fun that I have because it's like you see like growth and you're like, this is addicting. And
Yeah.
so that for me has made it like as much of my personality now as almost anything because it's like, as soon as I'm not doing it, I freaking miss it. If I go on a
Yeah.
vacation with my family to like wine country or something, or I'm playing golf, which I like, but it's like, why are we out in the woods? Like we could be in the woods. We don't need to be
Yeah.
drinking wine here. We could just go hike. Like
Yeah. Exactly.
it's like this different thing. So, um, it really is one of those things, whether you have the hunting bug or not, it's like, has it become your personality, like, or not?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Um, and I want to say one thing too before I forget. Getting into hunting and everything before I kind of had the stereotypical idea that every hunter is like some dumb hick that like, you know, can't spell or doesn't know how to talk properly or, whatever thing. And you realize like that's not true at all. Most hunters you run into are incredibly bright people. They're enthusiastic for what they do, and they're a lot smarter than you think because they can tell you how animals are going to move, all over the place, and they've done their own research. It's like they're like differently intelligent than, me who had worked in healthcare for like 10 years before getting into hunting. Like
Yeah.
it's just like a different thing. So, um, I understood that hunters were like, you know, like tough and this and that. But I didn't realize like, there's a lot of thought that goes into a lot of this stuff, and a lot of them are very intelligent people, and they kind of have this
Yeah.
bad rap of like what the media wants to portray them as,
Yeah.
and
I think Joe Rogan always says it best is like hunters are always portrayed as the bad guy in movies and
it's so true.
in in speaking, or like you always hear about the hunter that kicked the deer to death or the hunter that got drunk and shot somebody or whatever it
Right.
is.
But then you don't
And
hear
those
hunters,
are
you don't hear any of them
yeah,
talk about like the Pittman-Robertson Act, which like
right.
keeps all of your public game lands and all of your public parks open and active and thriving.
Yeah, even the ones you can't hunt in.
Right, right, yeah.
And like I mean, those horror stories are kind of a minority when it comes to hunters. Like I don't I don't I know of people who do have done or do illegal things.
Right,
I don't personally, first of all, I'm not interested in being friends with those people. And I am definitely not interested in hunting with those people or anyone around. Like, I have no interest in breaking any rules
right,
for a few reasons, right? A, it's illegal. You could get a fine for it. I don't really like that idea because that's wasting cash and time. You could lose your license, something like that.
right,
So, besides the not legal part, okay, we're talking about like you and I talk about like e-bikes a lot and frustration with
mm,
people riding e-bikes on public land here. There are parcels of public that you are allowed to ride them on. There you can ride them in PA on state forest lands, um, and they have to meet certain criteria. I don't know which lands you're really allowed to because I don't plan on riding one. But it really irks my chain because it's like so you might think that using an e-bike, well, it's not really a big deal, like it's just getting me in further and getting me in faster. But you are not on the same playing field. The legalities keep the playing field even, right?
right,
If e-bikes were legal, I would also be able to ride an e-bike legally, and if I choose not to, that's my fault, right? But when you're using something to take advantage of other hunters and taking advantage of the game, it kind of sucks. And me personally, I can't, if I rode an e-bike into public land illegally and shot a really big buck, I don't think I would really enjoy that buck very much. Even though the e-bike isn't really that big of a deal, it's like I didn't do it the right way because
Mm.
you're not allowed to do that here. And I found some kind of advantage. Like I've seen people, I can't say for sure, but I'm fairly certain that I witnessed this year somebody killed a really nice buck with a muzzleloader in the early season.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only kill does in the early season with a muzzleloader. But I have heard often that people are finding people like, oh, I didn't know you couldn't shoot a buck in the early season. Read your book. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, that
It's
information
like,
is there
come
for
on, dude.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's always a bummer when people take advantage of the system and and make the playing field uneven. And I don't want to kill a deer that way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it takes the fun out of it for me. And I think that most people would agree to most aspects. Like maybe not being able to ride e-bikes is dumb, whatever. But it's not legal right now. And when it is, maybe my opinion on e-bikes will change because then I can ride one. But it's just like when people bait out of state. If you live in a state that you can bait in, then bait. If that's what gets you going.
Yeah.
Like I don't care.
I think there's all kinds of like little like nuanced law things that are kind of like weird that people get hung up on, like trail cameras or whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
cell camera or this or that.
Yeah.
And like every time there's like an argument for or against a technology or something, it's kind of like people make the excuse of like, oh, well, it's making it easier to hunt or it's making it easier to kill something. It's like, well, okay, kind of, but also kind of not. Like you still have to put your physical body there and get your sights
Mm-hmm.
on a deer.
Yeah.
Um, now, like I think that's totally different than something that's like, shooting a muzzleloader buck out of season. Like obviously that's like shitty.
Yeah.
But it's like there's like degrees.
Right.
Like if you don't want a trail camera, don't use one. You don't need to
Exactly.
worry about it. If you don't want a, like to a e-bike is one thing, but like say like you don't want somebody to use like gas powered motorcycles. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a significant noise factor there, which
Mm-hmm.
would disturb like the piece of the game land. So
Right.
you understand why that's like significantly different. Um, there's just constant evolution and stuff. Like I remember reading early on about how people didn't think you should shoot archery because it could be, you know, way too deadly or not lethal enough or some sort of thing. And it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
it's as lethal as you are proficient with your equipment.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like certain things are just going to come and go, and there's always going to be these arguments and these debates on certain things. And I think the most important thing for like hunters to do is to like have the best possible conversations about those technologies and those points to further increase the understanding so that they're coming from a point of understanding and not just this general bias for not liking the thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's
I think
tough.
crossbows is also a really good example too, because like I am not a fan of crossbows, but I own one
Right.
because I want, if my kid wants the opportunity to go hunt, she's not big enough to pull a bow back.
Mm-hmm.
Not one that's legal. So I think there's an opportunity there, and I think maybe for people that are actually handicapped, like not because you're 65 and think you can't pull a bow back anymore. It's actually handicapped. I think they're
Mm-hmm.
valuable for. Um, I I don't really have a problem with people that use them without any ailments or being young or whatever it happens to be. Like just
Mm-hmm.
like an average hunter like me, I'm fine if they use a crossbow. If they take the time to value the tool that they're hunting, because like you
Mm-hmm.
said, your efficiency is it looks like a gun, it shoots like a gun, but it's still not a gun.
Right.
You still have to learn how to use your weapon well. And I find I think a lot of crossbow hunters get a really bad rap because they tend to be crumb bums. Like they don't practice with their thing. Like I don't know how many trees I've walked to and found bolts in the tree
Mm.
because they definitely missed the deer or something.
I've definitely found a couple on paths.
Yeah, but it's not only just that. It's just like the kind of rap that it comes with. But if that hunter is willing to work hard and do the things, and I don't even want to say because he doesn't have enough time to practice a bow, because you still need to have time to practice with your crossbow if you're going to hunt with one. So I think that if they want to, they're legal. If you want to hunt with that because you like the weapon, fine. But then please, please, please spend the time valuing the deer, valuing the scouting, valuing the hunting, and valuing, being efficient with the weapon that you're using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bought my son one this year, and it's kind of nice because unlike a compound bow, you set up a crossbow and it hits the target through the little scope
Mm-hmm.
thing. And
Mm-hmm.
you basically have your little points of, you know, distance markers, and that's it. You don't have to worry about left to right. You don't have to worry about anything. You
Yep.
kind of just pop it in the sight and then shoot. The ergonomics are totally different, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like kind of annoying. So I took my son's crossbow out one day for my own sit just to see what it
Mm-hmm.
was like to take that into the woods as opposed to my bow. And it's
Sucks.
way harder to load a crossbow while you're standing in a saddle
Yeah.
than like anything else. I was like, man, this is like really tough. Mine doesn't have like the mechanical like
Crank.
crank thing. It has like the
Yeah.
manual one that uses a pulley system. And it took a
Yeah.
lot of strength to be able to just still do that while being suspended with my saddle on
Yeah.
in my tree stand.
And if you forget your knocking string, forget it.
Oh yeah, you're not pulling that back.
Nope.
It's like
Not even a little bit.
it's
It
like
says it's
very
125
difficult.
pounds, but it's like 480.
Yes.
Like.
It's like absurdly difficult.
Yeah, I remember the first time I loaded I'm kind of scared of it. I'm not gonna lie, but the first time I loaded my daughters, I like tweaked my back pulling that thing because I thought it would be no big deal, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh boy.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I was like, I was actually impressed by how, powerful that freaking thing was.
Yeah,
For
for
400 and
sure.
some odd dollars, you can get a crossbow that'll shoot through a freaking concrete block.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
pretty.
damn.
It's pretty crazy. Well, man, it was great talking to you. We're definitely gonna have you on, a couple times throughout the seasons and stuff. And
Cool, man.
it's
Fun
it's
talking.
almost time to go fishing, so we're gonna be doing some of that too.
Dude, fishing season. Let's get it.
That's all we have for today, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe and share our show around, and we'll talk to you next time on In Camp Podcast.